What's up, everyone? Welcome back to a brand new episode of Micadelic. I'm Mike Brancatelli, you're you, and we're all the same consciousness experiencing itself subjectively through an infinite array of diverse sentient life throughout this earth and all the other ones in the multiverse, or whatever the hell you want to believe we're in, because it's all a game that we're playing just to experience the infinite multitude of experiences here in this conscious domain of reality that we're creating. This is just what we do. This is the game. We've been just doing it for infinity. And, the key is to just live in eternity, live in the present moment, and not get too bogged down by living somebody else's idea of what this thing should be, which is hard. But then when you learn about this stuff and you have awareness of it, it's like, oh, it's not that hard. It's actually pretty simple. It's actually pretty easy. It's not that complex. I think certain groups of people want to make things sound more complex than they actually are, because it kind of serves their requirements for fuel and energy in order to sustain their games. So if you can buy it, if they get you to buy into their games, and they're like, oh, cool. But anyway, Finite and Infinite Games, one of the best books I've ever read in my life. I highly recommend it. I know Simon Sinek has a book out that was inspired by that book. I haven't read it yet, called The Infinite Game. But this is what it is. And then we put ourselves into finite games because it's fun. It's fun to be limited. It's fun to say, I just got done like binge watching a bunch of Bear Grylls, and I know that some of his stuff is staged, and it's a TV show. It's for entertainment and stuff, right? So it's not like completely accurate, of course. But I do like the idea of challenging ourselves, limiting ourselves. So putting ourselves in the limited game. So many people in the conscious, psychedelic, spiritual world are so attached to a particular outcome when it comes to walking the path, or their path, that they're going to get to somewhere, that they're going to arrive to a point where pain and suffering is no more, where there's going to be some utopic bliss field just emanating out from every orifice of your body, and you're just going to float on a cloud, and nothing is ever going to faze you. And I guess maybe that's a path that you could try and pursue, but even the trying to pursue that, even the wanting to attain that, is a form of suffering in itself. We choose to enter limited games, and we choose to enter the realm of duality for a reason, because playing games are fun. If you didn't have borders and boundaries and rules to games, then they just wouldn't be fun. We like sports games because they have rules. When people break the rules, we get upset. Oh, that was bull, or this rule's stupid. I know my brother recently was complaining about this new rule in baseball. I haven't really been paying attention, but something about extra innings. A guy goes to second base, and it's like, oh, come on, that's a shitty rule. Sometimes the rules are shitty, but we get to reality gets created by our negotiations of agreements that we make. And we're making agreements every single day, whether we realize it or not, whether it's, being complacent or tacit agreements, or really active agreements. We're constantly working in competition and collaboration. We're constantly making choices. And even when we're not making choices, we're making a choice because we're basically saying that we're not participating. We're funding and fueling the lives that this reality machine is operating based upon everything that we implicitly, tacitly, or agree to, whether it's passive or active, whether we're making choices proactively or whether we're letting things happen to us. It's all a part of this game, and the outcomes are then generated based upon everything that we do. Well, this is a hell of an intro to this podcast. I wasn't really planning on going to all the places that we just went to, but that's what you get over here from time to time. Is that what you get? I don't know. You get something. But anyway, this podcast is with my brothers, with my soul brothers, Max Marshausen and Bill Burns. So you've both heard on this podcast individually, and now the three amigos, the three musketeers, the I don't know. Is there another three something? Three's a good number. I mean, obviously, you guys know I like the triangle. But we're all on this podcast together because we have been working together in creating experiences for men, aka men's work. You'll hear both of their stories. They've shared. Max has shared on the podcast I did with him individually, but they'll share on this podcast as well. And we recorded this episode right before I left to go to Costa Rica. Then I put it up on the Patreon for the patrons to get early access to. Shout out to all you patrons. Love you guys. Love you gals. Love y'all. Couldn't do this podcast without your help, with your love, with your support. Really, really appreciate you guys donating your fiat currency to support this show. So now I'm releasing it to you all, and we just had a magical, mystical, epic, legendary men's gathering up in Boulder, Colorado, at a beautiful 100-acre property. Just truly spectacular place. Man, it is just being there. Like, if we weren't even doing anything, just walking around the property, you feel so alive. A lot of the medicine is being in nature too. It's just really, truly sings to my soul and lights me up. But being there with other men that are looking for something different, looking for something a little bit more, a little deeper, a little bit more real. And that's what we had. And it was just, man, I was buzzing after the night. I mean, the whole evening was amazing. And I was buzzing so much I could barely go to sleep. I was having all these ideas come up, because I guess I've always been a seeker. I've always been looking for that thing, that real, the raw juices of life, the nectar, the real shit. And sometimes I find something and I'm like, this is the real shit, and then that's the real shit for as long as it is that it serves me, and then there's something else. It all builds upon itself. In my experience, everything has built upon itself. And now I find myself really called to be doing this work. And so Bill Burns, myself, and Max Marshausen are hosting a retreat at the end of August that is going to be liberating, euphoric, amazing, confronting, challenging. Just we're calling it permission. You have permission. All of you is welcome here, and you have permission to unleash and awaken your wild soul. And this is we firmly believe that being entrenched in nature, deepening into community and healing, with ceremony, with ritual, in a sort of rites of passage, initiation way, is crucial, is vital. I think that we really, really, really need this. And you're going to hear us talk about this, but I'm talking about the recent experience that we had. It was called Perception. And it was just so soul nourishing. And so, the words that come to mind were tribe, community, brotherhood, bonding, raw, real, authentic, genuine, emotional, blissful. It just was so impactful. And so many of the guys there were saying, man, I never thought I'd be doing this. And I did so many things tonight that that I didn't that I'd never done before, and felt so freeing, and I feel so alive. And one of the best moments for me was we did a silent night hike to a teepee out in the forest, and we made a fire, and we did some. I led people in a rape ceremony, and then as well as Om chanting meditation, and then just some kind of primal chanting, just kind of free flow, spontaneous, improvisational, primal chanting, and kind of drumming as we were hitting the floor and our legs and things like that. And each experience that we're putting together is going to be different than the last. So that's one of the keys that I really want to create, is each one is going to be vastly different. And some of them will be themed, some of them will be free, some of them will be charging for. And we're also going to have some Zoom gatherings as well for you people that are out of state, that you want to experience a little bit what we're offering. But I am truly ignited with a lot of energy here, and a lot of commitment and dedication to creating really ultimate experiences. If you guys want to experience what it's like to be with me and live in one of these experiences, come out to it. If you're in Denver, if you're in Boulder, if you're in Colorado, even if you want to come in from out of state, this retreat that we're hosting at the end of the summer is going to be so epic. I wish I had better language to put to it. I keep thinking of the same kinds of words. But anyway, that I'm just beaming with excitement and energy. I feel that my soul has been nourished. I feel that this has been a crucial part of what I've been looking for in my journey of things that I've been discovering, where I've been going towards things that I find to be, this is where truth is, this is where healing is, this is what resonates with me, this is what connects with me. I felt so connected and so alive. And I think there's just something really, really crucial about being with a bunch of men and just doing some primal shit, and allowing yourself to be seen, to be held, to be vulnerable, and allowing whatever to come out, because we all go through shit, and we can't keep it in alone. We can't be these lone wolves. That doesn't work. And we gotta have tribe. We gotta have community. I recently watched the movie Dances with Wolves, actually very apropos time, just randomly. I think it was on Netflix. I was like, I haven't seen this in a while. I saw it maybe when I was like 10, so don't remember much of it. But yeah, it just there's such a difference when you look at the tribal way of being. And if I think back to all the times in my life where I felt most alive outside, it's not solely the ayahuasca, it's not solely the psilocybin, it's not solely the music, or that nothing exists in a vacuum in and of itself. So that is why this work is so important, has been so important to me. This is not about going and getting into an experience and then coming back and then going for the next one and the next one and the next medicine and the next plant medicine and the next drug and the next psychedelic and the next group and the next breath work and the next and the next and the next. We are not selling tickets to this event. What we are doing is we are inviting all to be participants and collaborators, and some more collaborators and participants. So if you have a talent, if you have a skill, if you have a gift that you would like to share, to bring it into community, into tribe, you have permission to do that. We want to give you space to explore and to awaken your creativity and your gifts, just the way that my brothers have done for me and that I have done for them. We want to create an environment where you feel free and empowered to try, to experiment, to play, and to share, to get personal and vulnerable, not because we're encouraging you to do that, but because you feel safe in an environment where you see the you in all of us, and that we see the us in you. Because that's what happens. Healing does not happen in a vacuum. Healing is not individual. Community is more than just something that people talk about when they say that they're gathering in a space on a night to do cacao or to do bread, whatever the thing is. Unfortunately, the container for the environment in which we exist in is vastly different than the one shared by, for example, the movie that I was watching, Dances with Wolves. You know, but that way of being, and I've only experienced that a little bit when I worked at the Temple of the Way of Light and lived there. But that is what I think about often. It's not necessarily about the ayahuasca. It's not necessarily about being in the jungle. It was the people who I was with at the time and the moments that we shared, the way that we looked at each other in the eyes, the things that we said, the humor, the laughs, the connection. The connection is the medicine. The connection is the cure, as Johann Hari in his amazing book, Lost Connections. We are so disconnected and separated, and we want to create a financial model, a soul model, a mind model, a body model, really embody this and walk this path of true equality and connection, where everybody feels empowered, everybody feels that they are getting sustenance and nourishment out of this. So we want to invite all of you in the style of life is a negotiation. You know, currently right now, maybe on the website, it doesn't reflect that way. We need to update it. Everything is a negotiation. Reality is created by our negotiations. So if you want to come, if you want to be a collaborator / participant, creator, and share some of your talents, whether it's body work or energy work or facilitation in some capacity, breath work, something more, everything, mind, body, spirit. We want to bring it all in together. We have a lot of people in mind that we're curating to be collaborators. And we also want to invite everybody to be a collaborator and a participant, or a participant collaborator. And we will work with you where you're at. If you feel called to be here and to be in a pack, in a tribe of those striving for true brotherhood and connection, true community, to really feel all of our senses, and to really be present and to witness the power of transformation that occurs when everybody's egos are left at the door and we can come together to build something greater. This is the idea. This is the vision. All of us individually are nothing. But when we come together to give life to a being or entity that unifies all of our individual contributions and creativity, then we create something great. Anyway, that is what we're doing. That's the call. That's the invitation. Contact me. All the links are in the show description, show notes. Contact me, email me, DM me. However you need to get in touch with me, go to the link, get in touch with Bill, get in touch with Max. We want you to be there. We want to work with you. We want to create an amazing experience and start creating more experiences and more experiences and more experiences until this just becomes a way of being. With that being said, we're going to get right into this podcast right now with Max Marshausen and Bill Burns. You have permission. Hey, welcome to a brand new episode of Micadelic. I'm Mike Brancatelli. You're you. I'm sitting here with two dudes who are not you or me, but they're my BFFFFs, Max and Bill. You might know them by the name of Max Marshausen, Coach Hausen, and Billa Seiben.
What's up, y'all?
Hola, amigos.
This podcast is about what we're doing in the world right now. I've recently kind of stepped into some men's work with your help, Bill, and your help, Max. Bill putting together Connection Council during the pandemic. This was a game changer for me, I have to tell you. At first, I was like skeptical. I didn't really understand it. I didn't really get it. I hadn't really explored the field of men's work so much. But man, that early stages of that pandemic was so isolating and so lonely. And to have a group of men who I now consider to be my brothers, like show up and just, connect with each other in ways that I just never even thought were gonna be like possible during that time.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be so much more. So big shout out to you, Billy Burns.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, just to give some background, I realized myself that I was feeling isolated when this whole pandemic thing started, and Mike and I actually recorded a podcast about, I guess, a little over a year ago, the Chrysalis, when we kind of were all going in our collective cocoons. And it was at that time that I could no longer do what my former, project was, which was Good Cinema, which we had a whole podcast on that. I couldn't host events in theaters anymore. I couldn't kind of bring community together. And so I really searched deep within my heart for what we really needed. And I thought we needed some form of deep connection. And so I started hosting just online Zoom gatherings where I would facilitate these spirals, as we call them, form of facilitation. It was then during a mushroom journey that I got this inspiration to bring this beautiful work to men that I was in connection with. And the name Connection Council was what came to me, and this men's group was born. And we eventually got offline and in person for experiential gatherings, starting with paddleboarding, getting into nature hiking. We did a rafting and camping trip where our guide couldn't make it. So we all became our own guides and have since hosted a co-creative retreat where each individual brought their own gifts and passions to this group. And it's just been wonderful to see how this safe space has really created room for healing, a place for us to really support each other, to love each other, to hold each other in our pain and our joy. And we've just grown together so tightly as brothers. And it's now inspired even new creations that we'll be talking more about today.
Hell yeah. But yeah, that was beautiful, Bill. I mean, you really, it all came together at like the perfect timing. And I have to say, that rafting trip, I think, was the turning point for me.
Yeah.
Right?
I would agree.
Yeah,
100%.
Max was fucking jumping off 75-foot cliffs, going from raft to raft like we were pirates in the Caribbean. Yeah,
it was so much fun. The bottoms of my feet have never hurt so much.
So we went to the Colorado River. What area were we in?
It was the upper Colorado, kind of near Kremling, Rio Rancho, I think was the area.
Yeah. So we get there, and I remember you and I were the first ones to arrive. And our camping spot was like wide open, and the sun was just beating the hell out of us. Like I was like, oh man, like what are we gonna do? And kind of like just like the first time that I'd really been on a trip like this, outside of just being with friends or family or something like that. This was the Connection Council rafting trip over the summer last year, and we wound up having like a great night. I think we got a little bit high. I remember someone lost a joint. Kevin lost a joint, and he was trying to find it, looking around for it. Like, it just got there. It's such a stoner thing to do, and we were all laughing and having a good time, and then some concern started to come in as we were sitting around the fire, because we had all nominated our brother Justin to be the captain, right? This is how I remember it. Was that...
Well, how we got there was the night before the retreat, I get a message from the guy who organized this whole event, and he was a seasoned rafter. He rafted for multiple months down the Grand Canyon and just is one with the river, and so he was going to be our guide. Well, he was sick the night before, and so we had no guide. We were literally up the creek without a guide.
Yeah.
We did have paddles.
We did have paddles.
We had those.
And so we show up to the rafting center, and the woman's kind of asking us all about, well, do you know the right type of jacket to wear? And the guy that we had elected as our guide, who was, I guess, the elder of the group, Justin, he was wearing what he thought was what she was saying the right jacket was supposed to be. And she said, it's this instead, right? And he said, well, yeah. And then he's looking around, and then no one's wearing the same jacket as him. And he's like, well, wait, is this not right? And that was just the beginning of our follies as we entered this adventure as amateurs.
Yeah. I mean, really, it was the reason why I think that was the turning point for me is because, look, like sometimes in life, like you're trying to plan things to be perfect, right?
Yeah.
And, especially in the psychedelic space, it's all about like, oh, you want to set up like, set and setting, and it's, all this stuff is like really important, and prepare. And while there's a lot of truth to that, there's also something really special about just piecing it together as you go, and just and making it work, and like improvising and trusting the other people that you're with. Like, we're doing this. You got my back. I got your back. You got my back. Like, hell yeah. All right, let's fucking go. And that to me was what was really special about it, because once we got on the water, we got 2 boats or 2 rafts, right? Yeah. We got no real guide, our guide was, somewhere else, and no helmets. We weren't wearing any helmets. I remember seeing other people with like helmets and being like, should we, do we need those? Is that important? But we all worked together as a team in each raft to navigate those waters, which were like class 3 rapids. And I think we did a fucking hell of a job. And it really brought us all together even closer afterwards, because we had that shared experience of like really facing a challenge that we were unfamiliar with. Yeah. And then coming out on the other side victorious.
Yeah, and I feel like the big kind of, I guess, transition, if you will, in that adventure for me was we had spent all this time together connecting through circle, through our words, through hugging, just through all these different ways. So we'd really gotten to know each other. But this gave us an opportunity to really lean on each other and connect with each other in a more physical, tactile way of like, all right, so we've spent all this time connecting in the emotional realm. How do we do when we get in a boat and we go paddle down river? Mm-hmm. And I think the work spoke for itself with how well the teams communicated, how well we worked together, and how much fun we had at the same time. Like, it was nervous and some people were pretty scared, but once we got on those boats, it was like, I just remember being in pure bliss. I mean, I was jumping from boat to boat, so
yeah,
I was having the hell of a time.
In my boat, we had a good flow.
Yeah.
We had a good flow of communication. Justin actually did an excellent job as the captain. Everybody else that was in the boat, when the time came for us to pull it together and make things happen, we did.
Yeah.
When we saw a rock coming up, we navigated the right way. So yeah, but to your point, Max, I mean, that's such a good point. Like it's like this 2-pronged or 3-pronged approach of like circling up, spiraling, being emotional, vulnerable, saying things that you might normally not say, and in a circle, in a safe container with other men. And really developing that connection, and then also bringing it to the physical and incorporating that fun element in there as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because the night before, we were all sitting around the fire, and we were circling, and someone brought up, I'm pretty scared about tomorrow. I have a lot of fear. I had no idea we wouldn't have a guide, and I don't really know what the hell I'm doing. And it was at that moment that all of us that were afraid were able to just voice our fears, and together, collectively, we held each other and we said, you know what? We have 8 guides right here. We don't need one guide. We're all guides together. And it was that moment where it felt like it wasn't just 8 individuals, but it was really one greater whole. And so the next day we crushed it. I mean, we just were aligned. We became one, because the boat really needs to be. We need to be paddling together. We need to be moving together. And I think that was the biggest thing I took out of it, was just we became a brotherhood after that.
Yeah, such a good point, because when the first person who expressed their fear about the next day, they gave everybody else permission.
Absolutely.
Permission granted. And it's so important, because as guys, so often we suffer alone for no reason.
Yeah.
When we can just tell our friends, our brothers, our family members, like, hey, I'm kind of thinking this, or I'm kind of like a little concerned about that, or I'm feeling this. Oh my God, me too.
Yeah.
Oh shit, really?
Yeah, because we didn't allow pride or ego to get in the way, we were able to just be open and vulnerable about how we truly felt, and that enabled us to connect deeper and to become stronger as a result.
It's so often when I'm, at least not anymore, but before I really dove into this work, when I've felt in another group of men that level of fear or apprehension and couldn't give it a voice. So I had to bottle it up, and then that kind of oozes out sideways, and it allows for things to not go as smoothly as they would have. So mad props to the container for giving the space for us to be able to be true to ourselves, and then to also be received that way. I think it's so often as men, there's a story that we're telling ourselves is like, well, it won't be received. We'll be ridiculed for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it begs the question, what's possible when we're in community with others that support us and allow us to be our true selves?
Yeah. I think you do an amazing job of facilitating that, Bill. You really are able to step out of your own way to allow for the magic of the collective container to emerge spontaneously, while you also guide it as well. And it's like a perfect balance of not too much, just right? And you do that really well. You're an excellent curator, and I think that by you doing that so well, it impacts the rest of us, because it's like it activates something within us to be like, oh yeah, this isn't about like who's the best, who's better, who's got a more vulnerable share, who's hurting the most, because once, and then even when you open up into that realm, like ego can convert anything to its use, as Cho Young Trungpa says, So it's like, but you do such a good job of being kind of like the ego janitor, you're like, oh man, little ego on the floor, just sweep that away a little bit. And we're all like, oh man, it's so much cleaner in here now. We want to keep this place clean too.
Yeah.
And then everybody participates to contribute what they have. And it really does, it's in Sebastian Junger's book, Tribe, he talks about the value of brotherhood and how it forms in troops, like where he was stationed in Afghanistan. It's like, look, we don't necessarily have to go to fucking war to make that happen, right? There's a lot other like healthier, more productive ways, and this is definitely one of them. Is this intentional community? I think that was one of the reasons I had a little apprehension, because I was like, why the fuck would I join something? I just hang out with you guys anyway. Yeah. And you made the point to me that this is like, look, we're in this fucking pandemic. Like, we need to do things that are intentionally creating community now. And then I got it after a couple times.
Yeah. Well, thank you for those kind words, Mike. I just want to say that what it is for me is I see that everyone has a unique gift that is so special. And I think we're doing each other a disservice if we don't encourage every person's unique gift to really come out. No one is better or worse than anyone. Everyone is who they are, and the more that we give them the space to be who they are, the better off this world is.
Absolutely. And I'll speak very candidly of just how much this has helped me to heal, Bill, with your ability to give people that permission to be their authentic selves, and the brotherhood that's been formed around us. That's something that still to this day, I have stories that pop up and like, oh, that's not going to be welcome. It's not going to be welcomed. And it's always dissipated and melted if I have that nervousness or apprehension before showing up to connection council. It's sometimes it's an old habit. It dies hard. It'll pop up from time to time, and then I'm always welcomed with this warmth and this acceptance and this. It's like a warm hug, that I've been needing for so long. That's allowing this to heal. I mean, there's that process of the grief coming up and being released, and to be held by my brothers in that space has been so scary at first, and then I get into it and it's so healing and so beautiful, and I feel so supported. And it's like, oh, I've just been telling myself a goddamn fear story the whole time about how this was going to go down, and really I've just been received with love and acceptance, and it's such a beautiful gift to receive.
Yeah it's I'm a little bit older than you, Max, and so I look at you and I'm like, this fucking kid is like on another, like, you're so much ahead of the game.
I appreciate
like
that.
When I look at you, I'm like, fucking, this guy's like courageous, brave, taking risks, taking chances, like making shit happen, really getting out in the world, like, and just living life to the fullest. Like, whether you're bouldering or hiking or, teaching kids, like whatever you're doing, you're way ahead of like where I was when I was your age. Because I'm just starting to get it now because of that conditioned pattern of behavior. I grew up in a New York, environment of, massive ego inflated, macho, machismo, like, fuck you, everything. My relationship
I'm from Brooklyn.
Yeah, you know where I'm from. But like, if anybody expressed any emotion about anything, you'd immediately get eviscerated, just verbally assaulted. And usually it would be funny. It would be like kind of a joke. Like, other people would be laughing. But there was always a little bit of truth, that comes out of that. So, I remember times where people would be like, maybe I would express something that would be a little bit more vulnerable or something, and I'd be like, come on, you fucking fairy, what, are you kidding me? Like, hey, do you really think that or something? Go fuck yourself. And then I would just like mask it and be like, yeah, it's stupid, whatever. But then like inside, I'm like, no, I kind of like. That was kind of important to me. Like, I'm not allowed to express the multi-dimensions of my personality. I have to be one thing, and so that conditioned behavior has just started to finally get attuned to the new way of being, where I feel I don't even feel that resistance anymore. I feel like, man, I could just be here and just be myself with my brothers and just be myself in the world,
That's beautiful. And you mentioned mask it. One of the primary objectives of this work is to give us a safe space to remove our masks, to give ourselves permission to be who we truly are. And that means things that we might feel aren't accepted or might not allow us to fit in, as it were. I, at least personally, I'll take you back a little bit in my life. I felt for so long that I never really connected with male friends. A lot of our activities revolved around watching sports and just many other things that I felt were very kind of surface level. And I always yearned for a deeper connection with men. And I noticed that my deeper relationships started gravitating towards those with women, because I felt like I was able to kind of open up more emotionally, have really deeper conversations, talk about feelings, things that dudes didn't talk about. And I originally come from the South and the Midwest, both places that are very steeped in kind of tradition and where there's, walls up when it comes to men really showing their soft side. And I was taught that, men don't hug, men shake hands, and men don't cry, and a man is tough, and that means that he does strong physical things. And this new work is really shifting what a man is. And I think what we're redefining as a strong man as is one who is vulnerable, who's open, who's able to really be true to himself and not be afraid of being who he really is, but courageously getting into the arena and opening up, crying, and loving with reckless abandon.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well said, bro.
Amen. Amen to that. Yeah. I'm so excited that this kind of work is really coming online more now.
Yeah.
You know?
It's time.
Yeah. It really is, right? I mean, when you think about it, when you think about a lot of the things that are shitty in the world that we don't like, I look at that and I go, well, yeah, obviously. We have a bunch of wounded, traumatized men who have been repressing their feelings, projecting their egos into the material realm, and wearing all these different kinds of masks that they don't even know who the fuck they really are anymore. They define themselves by their career, their job, or their money, or whatever. And it's like baby men. And Trump was the perfect mirror for that. Yeah. It's like, here's the collective shadow. Boom, it's your president. All your unhealed shit, all the scary shit, all the nasty shit you don't want to look at, here it is.
It's not my fault, it's your fault.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Don't put that on me. I'm not the collective shadow. You're the collective shadow. My shadow is tremendously huge. I have a huge shadow. But that's what happens when you don't have rites of passage for young boys coming of age like they did in indigenous traditions all around the world, in tribal villages and societies and cultures, that they knew that this is going to be the next generation, and they had wise old elders in order to usher those children into adulthood so they could be the torchbearers to represent the values and the traditions of that tribe, of that society. And instead what we have is none of that, and you don't get that challenge. You don't get that kind of much needed wisdom. Where are our wise old elders? They're in fucking old age homes in Florida, locked in a fucking prison with dementia. Yeah. And some of them sometimes they become president too.
Or they're in country clubs in the golf course. There's this. I think it just comes back to this illusion of separation and this kind of disconnection from being in true community. Communities defined by the things we do, or the proximity, but not communities defined by who we are and how we support each other as humans. I think this one piece about kind of getting back in a native tradition is ceremony. This I guess this other concept that is kind of gaining more steam with the psychedelic movement and with ayahuasca becoming so much more kind of mainstream now is ceremony. But I think if we focus too much on the substances, we lose sight of what true ceremony is, and that is the ritual, the gathering, and the communal nature of sharing in an experience for the good of everyone that is both uniting as well as introspective, in a way that our current ways of, I guess, quote, celebrating, or our current ways of ritual and tradition really focus on disconnecting and intoxifying ourselves with different substances and just disconnecting from the world, because we're always looking for that escape. And I'm looking for ways for us to not escape, but to reunite.
Yeah, to deepen, right? Yeah. Yeah, and why men's work specifically, right? Like, I'm thinking of what's because I think one of the things that I thought was, what is this, like a bunch of guys like throwing kettlebells around and fucking screaming at the top of their lungs like, release your primal law, and there's like, maybe that's some of that's good and whatever, but like I had this or like men's rights activist type thing, like these are a bunch of incels sitting in their mom's basement, like putting angry comments out on the internet.
There's a feminist movement, where's the masculine movement?
Right.
Burn our sheath underwear, let's do it.
You can buy sheath underwear and then burn it. Use the promo code Micadelic, 20% off. Always be plugging ABP. But yeah, I mean, because it's like, well, can't we all just heal together? Like, why men? What is it about men's work? Why are we doing this that is specifically geared towards men only?
I personally feel it's because there's that space for men to come together and do this kind of healing work really hasn't existed. I mean, it started to really kind of surface, I would say, in the late 80s, early 90s with Robert Bly and some of those big names out there in
Michael
men's
Mead.
work. Michael Mead.
Robert Moore.
Yeah, those guys are the ones who really kind of pioneered the movement, but it lost steam in the late 90s. And I think we kind of got sucked right back into the rat race and consuming materials to fill the void. And I see this men's work and why it's so specific for men, because we've been leaning on our women for this emotional space for so long, right? Like in relationships, it's always been the woman's responsibility to teach the man how to feel again. And that's not her responsibility. It is our responsibility as men to come together and learn how to do this again. We know how to do it. It's there. We've just programmed ourselves and trained ourselves to not do it anymore because that's the messaging we've been receiving. So now we're creating these intentional spaces for men to come together where there isn't that shame that's being thrown around when somebody shows up with a tear in their eye, but rather they're met with a warm and welcome hug of like, what's going on? Sit down, talk to me. I can remember being in like so much fear to show up at my old man's place and sad or experiencing any kind of emotion because I wasn't living up to the expectation of what it is to be a man. And now as I'm getting older and I'm getting into these spaces more, I'm learning that it's, screw this whole gender thing of man or woman. We're human beings and we have an emotional experience, and it's about leaning into that experience with our brothers, because men and women definitely experience emotion in different ways. And I think we're learning from each other in circle about all these different ways that we do experience them. I used to be somebody who isolated so much when it came to my emotional experience, and what Connection Council and men's work has really done for me has allowed me to see in myself others and learn from them and their process. And it's given me such an emotional intelligence to be able to understand my emotional experience and to give it permission instead of trying to fight it off.
Yeah. I wish we set up before this podcast like a couple buttons so that every time someone said permission, we could just go, permission. You have permission granted. Permission granted. Okay, so we're just going to take a quick interlude here so that we can bring to your attention the amazing sponsors that love and support this show and have amazing services and products to offer. It's Sheath Underwear, Fungi Academy, Mushroom Revival, Ohana Kava Bar, and Student Loan Tutor. Go check them out in the show notes. All the links are there with the discount codes. All the information that you will want to know about these amazing sponsors, their products and services are there. I wouldn't be recommending them if they weren't awesome. And to find out more, just go to that section on whatever podcast player app you're using. The information will be there, and we got some nice discount codes on some amazing products and services. Much love to you guys. Thank you so much. And also, leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, and check out Patreon at patreon.com/Mike Brank. Now let's get back into this conversation.
No, well said, Max. And for me, I, like you, Mike, rejected this notion of men's work from the beginning, because I thought, why don't we just do this together? Why don't we just separate men? Men already have all these things for them. Do they need one other thing? That doesn't make any sense to me. And then as I started to get into it and realize what it truly is, I realized, well, wait, women have been doing this for a long time, unabashedly just book clubs and going out for girls' nights and meeting for dinner, and men get together to watch sports, scratch their asses, do things that are more focused on not each other. Yeah. And women do things that are book club, but they're really just chatting with each other. And so they do things that are meant to focus on other things, but they're focused on each other. And with the way our world is now, just the reality of so many men in power, I think it behooves us as men to really start to explore our feminine sides, to become more balanced and whole as individuals, not live by these boxes that we're put in as men, but to truly come out of our shells and to discover who we really are. I think that's the first step, is really exploring who are we if we don't have to be something? If we don't have to be defined by these gender normative roles, but we can just be defined by who we are, what is possible then? And so I think when in men's work, it creates safe spaces for that. I think why it is men only in these spaces is because it's a safe space for men to really explore what that is and to be held by other men who are doing the same thing. And in doing that, we are giving each other permission to really be who we are without being who we, quote, should be.
Right. Yeah. And there's differences between men and women, obviously. Right.
Absolutely.
So, and I think that it's safe to say that like men like to do things that are kind of dumb sometimes, kind of, kind of silly, kind of immature.
The farts are funny.
Right. Like, funny and immature, or just maybe a little bit more aggressive, or a little bit like mean, but in a joking way. But that gets expressed in an unhealthy way and in a destructive way when you don't have the container, when you don't have the sort of wise elder guiding and facilitating and leading. I just remember growing up so many times just doing something that was so stupid, so dangerous, so risky, so immature, even to this day. But now I have such a better container to express that. And when I express that urge for that thing, that part of my like masculine or maleness, like I'm like, oh, it can come out in like a healthier, like lighter way that's better for everybody and myself. And I feel better about it,
I also feel like another important piece to why men's work and why is it exclusive to men is because men need to see other men in their shit, in their emotions. We so often feel we need to hide that from one another, and this creates an opportunity for us to show up in whatever it is that we're dealing with. Sometimes it can be messy and hurtful and painful, and we're letting ourselves be seen by other men in that space. And in my journey with men's work, that has been probably some of the hardest pieces of the work.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. I also want to say that it's that, and it's honoring what we really need. And as men, I feel like for so much of my life, I've just pushed through. Well, I'm going to be tough and I'm going to push through these feelings that I feel instead of acknowledging them. And Max, I think you've done just such a beautiful job of acknowledging what's there for you when you need space, when you need to step back and rest, when you need to heal, whatever you need, you say it. And you're not like, I'm tough, I'm going to push through this. And that's beautiful. And that's given me permission to honor myself and what I need and to become more aware of that. Do I let this fester? Do I push it down and be the tough guy? Or do I acknowledge what I truly need? And so I thank you for that, Max.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate that acknowledgement because I don't always give myself that. So I needed that. Thank you, brother.
Of course.
Yeah, and that's a great example of you reminding him of what he knows but sometimes forgets. And that happens with me as well. And I think when you can create a space like that, like we have created, that we get these little reminders where it's like, hey man, like I'm seeing this and I know you know that, but you're just not seeing it right now. And you're like, oh yeah, that's right. And on top of that, it's like what you said earlier was just so great about how like it's not a woman's responsibility to make us feel again. That we have to take care of this shit, that we have to, even the most toxic, destructive, hateful men out there, they're fucking wounded. They're hurt, and they're trying to cope with it in ways that they know how. And if they're just invited to come sit in our circle around our, in front of our fire, give them the space to express that. Give them the space to let it out, because I've been there. You've been there. You've been there. Like we've been there. We get it. And that is so important. There are these things that I think initially when I had a little bit of apprehension about joining a men's group, it was like, I was like, yeah, I'm vulnerable, I'm raw, I'm real. I fucking share shit all the time on the podcast and everything, like I don't need to like a special space for that, but you do. There's something special about it, that these things sometimes go undervalued, but there's something special about being witnessed, being seen, being heard, expressing yourself, and being together with other people and doing that. It sounds simple. It sounds like, who needs that? But it's really super impactful, because there's this quote, I forget who said it. It's like, one of the biggest tragedies of the modern human experiment is that men and women are relegated to going through the human experience together, alone, separated in like boxes, square boxes and things like that. You think about it, it's like that's when you get like these men who take it out on the woman, who unload on the woman, who or their partner, whoever. It's like, no, get your shit together, get with some other guys that are going through the shit that you're going through, and you're going to change. You're going to heal, you're going to change, you're going to grow, you're going to learn, and you're going to be a fucking, warrior, king, magician, lover. And your woman is going to fucking be like, thank God I have like a responsible, healthy man who is, able to work with me and we grow together. And it's not like I'm taking care of him. That was like the trope in the 90s.
Yeah.
Couch
absolutely.
potato man, Homer Simpson, laying on the couch, drinking beers and being I don't know how to do anything. I'm a dumb man.
Help me.
Oh, my husband is just such a klutz. Oh, yeah,
Homie.
yeah. Homer. Right. I mean, Al Bundy, like all these, and then it just became like this trope of like, hey, the old ball and chain, I don't know how to do nothing. And, man mows the lawn and fixes things. Woman drinks wine and goes to book things with her friend. But this is truly opening us up actually into a new dimension of reality.
Yeah.
Possibly rekindling the past hunter-gatherer type way of living and being in community. And we're sort of re-entering into that sphere
And bringing back the appropriate rites of passage, not a diploma or a college degree.
Yeah.
Those, I feel personally.
or a bar mitzvah, shalom, Shabbat.
Yeah, or your driver's license. I mean, I can remember when I reflect back on my own childhood thinking like these were big milestones, right? Like, oh, I got my driver's license. Yeah. And then, oh, I graduated high school. Yeah. And then I finished college. Yeah. And then I got out into the real world and it was like, fuck, who am I? What do I do? How do I mean, I'm fortunate in that I've always been a very introspective young man and I've taken time to like sit with myself and think through a lot of different things. But I still got into the real world and had this idea in my head of what it was going to be like. And then I started doing door-to-door sales and I was like, what the fuck am I doing? This is not how life is going to be, right? Like it can't be like this forever, right? Like it does get better, right? And I feel if, having been on the inside in terms of education, there's so much more we can be doing when those rites of passage that really measure, not anyone else's, but allow you to measure yourself where you're at as it relates to being in the world. Like maybe survival instincts, getting like 3 days or out in the woods and really seeing like where you're at in that. It's like, oh, okay, like I got some shit I got to learn. Like if I want to be able to take care of myself in different ways, there's other ways that we can be testing for that. Not that I want to use the word testing, that doesn't even feel right, but there's other ways to measure where you're at in your own life as it relates to being a part of this globe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Mike, you mentioned being seen, and I think that's an area to really focus on, especially in these rites of passage. Being seen is so crucial. I think, at least in my own life, I'll speak from personal experience here, I felt for so long that I wasn't truly seen, that I was doing something that wasn't right for me, but I felt like I had to do it. And so I would do things for attention, a lot of destructive things. I would treat people like shit. I would try to get a lot of women. I would do these things that were, I guess, the shadow of being seen. They weren't, because I was still not being seen. I wasn't even seeing myself. And there was not until I started my own kind of personal exploration and then getting into community and then finally, this men's group connection council. Until that, I don't feel that I was ever truly seen. And I was journaling about this the other day. I had some questions, and one of my prompts was, when do you feel truly seen? And one is with my wife and the other is with Connection Council. I feel that this group of men truly sees me, and I think the reason why is because we've created the container and they give me the space to truly be me and enabled me to step into the most authentic version of myself. And there's no ridicule. There is 100% pure acceptance. And even beyond that, there's celebration of who I am. And that is so special. That is the greatest gift I think anyone could ask for in life. And I think that is one of the keys to why men's work is so special. Men are able to be seen. We're not hiding anymore. We're not hiding who we truly are behind this steel facade. We are ourselves.
Yeah, and yeah, it's like just being with a group of men who say, yeah, just take it, tell us what's in your heart, tell us what's on your mind, whatever it is. Just, it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to say some grand, profound thing. It doesn't have to be something that is going to dazzle us and wow us. It doesn't have to be anything but what it fucking is. It doesn't even have to make sense. Right? And it's like having that permission to say, yeah, just try some shit. Just take a chance, take a risk. Just take a leap. And we're here. We'll fucking catch you. You know? And that's so valuable.
100%.
It's so valuable. Because the old way is man, isolated, alone.
Take the hit on the chin and do it all yourself.
Take the hit on the chin. Do it yourself. I got it. I don't need to know.
Yeah.
Hey, why don't you ask for directions, honey? I know where I'm going. Whatever it is. And it's like, no, like, take a risk. Take a chance. Jump out there. Say the thing that makes you feel uncomfortable. Say the thing that you're not sure about. Say the thing that you can't even articulate, but you're just feeling. And to have the ability to do that and to have other men sitting around and just looking at you and hearing you and receiving what you're saying. Who knows what comes of it, but it's there. It went, you went there. And every time we're in that circle and somebody goes there, it activates something in me. And I look at the other man who's sharing and I'm like, damn, fuck, Max, like, fuck, man, that was something. Don't really know what, but I felt it.
Yeah.
I felt it somewhere.
Yeah.
And then later on, I find out where I felt it maybe and what it brought up for me because somebody else shared something. And then I'm connecting these seemingly disparate stories or shares, and something else emerges out of it. And we lay this foundation with this container, and we're able to build on it. And one of the most exciting things is we never know what's going to emerge. We never know. It's never the same.
Yeah, and it's the witnessing of others is another thing. We truly get to listen. We truly get to witness, and it's a gift. It's such a gift to give that to others, to receive. And what I've noticed is it comes with a bonus gift. And that bonus is I learn something about myself each time. It's truly a circle of mirrors. I'm able to see new parts of myself and to learn things about myself in witnessing others. And that's this other piece that I had no idea I was going to gain out of this work.
Totally, dude. I like, and I think there's such a tendency to think about it from your own perspective. Like, what is this going to do for me? Right. But a lot of the times witnessing others receiving gifts does do something for me, but I wouldn't have thought that would have been the case, but it is. It's like if you're a selfish person, give to others because you're going to feel better. Witness others doing generous how many times do you see someone doing something generous or kind or like whatever, and you're like, oh man, that really felt good to see that, it's fucking, it's really special. And a lot of these things, they seem simple. They seem, well, yeah, of course. Like, and I think there's a tendency for men to like, I know for myself, I sort of like will intellectually grasp something in my head. Mm-hmm. I go, oh, I get it. Oh yeah, men's work. Yeah, being vulnerable, share. Yeah, I understand how that could be beneficial. Oh yeah, I kind of do that with like my friends here and there. But it's like, no, you're not understanding. Shut the fuck up. Get out of your head and get into your heart.
Yeah. Well, I love the piece that you were just speaking to about witnessing other people and what that does for us, because in another men's group that I'm a part of, when we would do our magician round, it was an opportunity for another man to do his work that evening, and then the rest of us would hold space. But something that the facilitator would always say is, as this man goes in to do his own work, it's also an opportunity for us to be doing our work at the same time, because of that mirror effect. It, while whatever it is they're working through might not sound like it relates to some piece of your journey as you've gone through life, I've found in those experiences, there's always been a little pearl that I've walked away with, like, oh shit, like, yeah, I have that same little twinge that I needed to heal and work through. And look at this beautiful gift in witnessing. Like, when other people are healing, we are also healing, and that's a beautiful gift.
So much. Yeah. Thank you, Max. I wanted to focus on something you just mentioned, getting out of our heads and into our hearts. I find so much, especially with, I guess, growing up, going back to this rite of passage of am I doing things the right way? And there's always this constant anxiety of like, ooh, what did someone like that? It's this constant like loop of self-judgment. And that's me being stuck in my head. I'm in my head and I'm in my way. And my thinking mind is stopping me from truly feeling and from truly expressing. And I think so much of our upbringing is focused on getting our minds where they need to be and learning new things. And it's a lot of heady shit, and it's not learning how to feel and how to connect and how to be compassionate and empathetic and express our feelings. And so it's this men's work as well. It teaches us to start to live from our hearts, using our minds as a tool, and using our mind giving our minds the ability to be more in connection with our hearts, and not this dominant thing that causes us to overthink, but it's truly feel, truly feeling that is what this men's work has enabled me to start doing.
Yeah. There's so many small or unrecognizable, intangible kinds of things that happen when we get together as a group that creates a feeling, a feeling of pride or satisfaction or love, and it's hard to explain, but there's just something about, being there with other men and going through the process, and everybody kind of, making those commitments, right? I think that we can all agree that that's an important part, is that like when you enter this space, that there's certain kinds of commitments that we make where it's like, we're going to be real. We're going to be potent, when we share. We're going to try and distill it down, and we're going to give other people space. We're going to ask questions from a place of curiosity, not from a place of agenda or advice. That we have this sort of, pact or covenant that we make, and this is the sacredness that gets created from it, because it's like magic. It's like we're setting up this magical realm that we get to enter into, and then when we exit it, it's like, man, like let the fireworks go, like it's party time, and then we're able to re-enter the world with whole other, like I couldn't name how everyone in the group has impacted me. Maybe it was just something that someone said. Maybe it was just a look that they gave me. Maybe it was just sitting outside, smoking a joint, looking at the stars. And there was just a moment after a connection council where it's just like, man, like I am just feeling so held right now by brothers, in a tribe, in a group where I don't feel that my problems and my issues and my wounds are solitary and isolated, but they're connected with this group and with every group, really, with all of us. We're all human beings sharing the same kind of experience and going through a lot of the same things. And when you open that door, you realize, oh, there's a whole room of doors in this labyrinth of life.
Yeah.
It's not just walls sealed shut with brick and concrete and steel, but that's something that you can only experience this. You can't intellectualize it. You can't, you can, but I would argue that the real value is in the actual direct felt presence of the experience.
100%.
Yeah, I have a question for you, Mike. So, as I'm sure all you listeners know, Mike enjoys talking a lot and does that for a living. And so I'm curious, Mike, what that kind of what that transformation was like for you, where you had to shift out of this way of being of talking a lot and really just kind of sitting back and doing far more listening than speaking.
It was hard. It first came to me when I was at the ayahuasca center that I worked at, the Temple of the Way of Light in Peru, in the Amazon rainforest. That was the first spark of that happening for me, where it was after a ceremony, right? So in a ceremony with others who I was sharing a safe space and a container with for that duration of time that I was there, and it was like, just listen more, and I remember sitting around a bunch of people and something kind of like political or something about like global economy, something came up about like society, civilization, something like that. And I remember like kind of wanting to like jump and say something because the person that's talking is wrong and I'm going to make them right. I'm gonna show everybody here how much I know. Look at what I know. Look at what I've figured out. Look at what I've pieced together and was able to put to in an articulate and clever way. Ooh, look at this! Isn't this impressive? And maybe if I butted in and said something, people would have been dazzled and amazed. But who gives a fuck? That wasn't what it was about. I was like, let this person express the truth of how they experience the world to all of us. And let me just hold that and receive that. And then when it's my turn, then maybe I can ask a question or I could say something. And being with my partner, Jenna, she's also helped me a little bit come to that side of like not trying to figure everything out all the time, not trying to problem solve, but actually just listen to the stirring of the emotions that are coming out in this vocal auditory way of like, I don't know, these words actually aren't the truth. It's just I'm feeling something and I don't know what it is, but I'm just saying things and the feeling is behind there. Just hear me. and it was such a practice. And then being in Connection Council even went further because I was around a group of men, and normally it's like I'm going to start getting rowdy and bawdy and like sarcastic and fun and silly and talking over people and interrupting people and kind of like, fucking with people a little bit and telling people what I think and what I know. And then it was like, no, like this is like, you listen now. This is when you listen. And by exercising that muscle and the ego thing too, right? Like the ego thing of like, this fucking guy sharing this fucking big stupid story. My story is going to be better than his story. And it's like ludicrous. It's like absurd. But being able to even being able to express that is healing. When I shared with Doug how when we had a new member, shout out to Doug, he'll be on the podcast soon. Come into the group, and immediately I was like doing this kind of like male baboon thing where you're like sizing him up. Like, who's this fucking guy? What's he all about? What's he doing here? What's he wearing? What's he like? And then just, like letting that go and letting him actually surprise me. Cause I got out of my head. I opened my heart and I said, come on in. What do you got? And, it's been an amazing transformation in my life to be able to do that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Mike. Yeah, for me too, this shift from righteousness to curiosity has shifted me into a state of wonder. And psychedelics do that too, but just being in this community with others, really being curious and just open, this work has truly shifted how I perceive the world, and I think that's fantastic.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, we've all gone through such huge transformations, like in this past year. And I kind of forgot when you mentioned it before, Bill, but you had been severely impacted by the pandemic. Mm-hmm. You did these live events in theaters, and you had to make a change, and fucking glad you did. And Max, you decided to make a huge change and take a leap and step into a world that's. Let's talk a little bit about that. I think that there's a tendency for men to get comfortable in what they're doing because they got the data, they've planned it out, you've done the research, you know that when you put in the work, 20 years, make this X amount of money, raise this thing, that thing, by the time I'll be able to retire, I'll be able to do that, I got these funds, this investment, blah. And that's great, but there's something about venturing into the unknown, there's something about taking that risk, leaping and not knowing what is going to happen. And I've done that too. I've been releasing a new comedy show, and it's pretty different than this one, and just different kinds of things, and stepping more into this work as well. And you're not going to know what's on the other side until you try. Right? And I think so often we will stop ourselves in our minds before we even let us experience. No, I know what that is. I don't want to experience that. I get it. I know what I like. I know what I'm doing. So this element of safety, security, being stable, right?
And that's amplified when identity is a part of it too. I think that was the most challenging part for me, was the identity of being so tied up in what I was creating. It was to the point where I was good cinema, and I couldn't distinguish myself outside of that context. And so when the pandemic shut that down, I had an identity crisis. I lost who I was, and there was a grieving process and of that letting go of what I had built. And I was telling myself a story that, what was all this for? And the reality is that was for what I'm doing now. It led me to where I am. And it really sucked to not do what I was doing, but it gave me an opportunity to go deeper within, to really explore the unknown at a deeper level and find what other gifts I had to bring to others. And I'm so stoked now to be bringing more live events in the form of experiences through men's work, through retreats, and doing this work with other men that I love and am in connection with. It's wonderful. And if I didn't have that shift and that identity crisis of really finding who I was, I don't think I would be bringing out work as authentic as I am now, because this work I feel is so true to my heart and is so authentic to who I am, and is really bringing my gift to the world. And so sometimes we need to have shit shaken up, and we need to go into the unknown to really find who we are and what our purpose is.
Well said.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and I'm so glad you did that, because it's then I see you. I see. Oh, look at what my friend is going through and what he's doing and what he's building, and it's inspiring. It's lights a spark within me, and there's this element of come on up, come on, man, you got this. It's well, I'm doing it. You can do it too. I was all right, cool, sweet. I like that. I like how we can collaborate and create together. Yeah. And Max, you did something that so many people are fucking terrified to do. Yeah. Terrified to do. Yeah. And your job was affected by the pandemic. So what was it like for you? What was this process like?
Oh man. It was a gift with some not so easy on the eyes wrapping paper, man. I had a hard time coming to grips with it. fought with it. I had this grand plan in my head of, I had been working with this particular group of students since they were in 4th grade, and I was in 6th grade with them, or 7th grade at this point with them.
Yeah, you were the director.
I was the director for a nonprofit building an after-school program for the middle school. But prior to that, I was working as an AmeriCorps volunteer, mentoring a caseload of 10 students. And that's how I kind of got in, with these kiddos. So I had an attachment, of course. I built some really meaningful and impactful relationships. And then when COVID hit and our nonprofit was going through some structural shifts as well, we had lost our CEO. And so it was kind of just like, all the pieces were right in front of me. We were on the precipice of change. I just didn't know how it was going to impact me. And I told myself 3 years, I'll see these kids through high school or into high school, wish them well, do the best that I can with them. And then by that point, I'll have enough in my savings and I'll be able to take the leap in a more comfortable way, which that's just a crock of shit, right? There's no, the leap's going to be the leap. It's going to be comfortable or uncomfortable no matter how much money you got in the bank. And so when I was stripped of my director role, I was like, okay, this is it. This is my time. It's now or never. And I eventually got to the point, I clung on a little bit longer, telling myself once I had this magic number in my savings account, now would be the time. And I just had one day in particular where it was like, no, I gotta go. It's now or never. I know if I don't, I'm getting in my own way by telling myself I need that safety and security in my savings account before I can effectively make the leap. When ultimately the only way I'm going to do it is by jumping. And so I jumped, and I took time to rest, to process everything that had gone through. And honestly, Mike, it was when we had recorded that podcast, The Wholehearted Masculine, I was driving home, and it dawned on me of I've been involved in men's work now since 2017, and in both of the containers that I'm a part of, they're really starting to evolve and go public and invite more men into this, so that we don't just keep the work for ourselves, but we can expand and give other men the opportunity to heal. And I was already kind of inadvertently coaching people and mentoring other men in the process, and I was like, I should go full tilt with it. I left that podcast feeling super inspired, and was like, man, it'd be pretty sweet to jump on podcasts and go work with clients one-on-one and build retreats and different events where this work can be more accessible for other men to heal appropriately. And it has been, it still is, when you take on men's work as your work, you're just kind of doing it all the time. So I have to be really conscious of how I'm allocating my time, so that I give myself time to process and work through the emotions that are coming up as I'm working one-on-one with clients and in my different men's groups and in my therapy. So it's been an important lesson of I've always had it in me to make this jump. I was just getting on my own way and telling myself stories about it. And now that I'm still in flight, I'm in the air, kind of free falling right now, and seeing, what's in front of me and where to pull things into my basket. It's exciting. It's challenging. It's everything that it's supposed to be. I wouldn't have it any other way. And I'm glad that I did take the leap. Thanks for asking, Mike.
Yeah, man. I'm glad you took the leap too. I'm glad that you took the leap too, Bill. And it's the more I see people taking leaps and doing things that are risky, or just, you got to do what's in your heart, and you get to a certain point where physically you're feeling shitty because you're I cannot keep doing this thing that is just crushing my soul and causing me a lot of terror. I'm terrorizing myself. Why? Do the thing that makes your fucking soul sing, that makes your heart come alive. Do the thing. And it's not easy. It's fucking hard. And it's terrifying, Yeah.
And by doing it, we're giving others permission to do the same.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely.
For sure. Yeah, and I think that, the thing that's really special about what we've all created and what we are creating, and especially with this retreat that we have coming up in August, Permission, is that we're not 20-year veterans in this work. We're not some corporate sort of more of a corporate type of entity. We're just really figuring a lot of this stuff out for ourselves. So it's come on this journey with us, build with us, participate, be a part of it, with us. Like, that is what is so exciting for me. Just like the rafting trip. It was like, it's not about just having a captain and he's going to lead and everybody else is just going to follow. It's like we were all the captains. Yeah. And that's the feeling I get when we're in Connection Council. That's what you do such a good job of as the ego janitor. And it makes us all be that way. It makes us all kind of like come alive and embody that essence. You know, and so I think that's not to say, and it's like we know what we're doing, but we're also figuring it out along the way. And there's something special about being there. You know, I watched this documentary about the Comedy Store on Showtime. It was amazing, but there's a magic about being like in the Comedy Store room when Richard Pryor was like figuring out who he was as a comedian with Robin Williams, with all these other guys. Nobody was like the leader of the pack. They were all figuring it out together, and they were just getting started, but they wound up building something fucking amazing. And so I think I look at like what we're doing now, and I'm like, man, like there's just something really cool about it being like, hey, this is a participatory thing. Like we're leading, but we're also learning so much from all of you that are a part of this. Yeah. And you know, I want to talk a little bit about that. You know, I am so psyched up for this retreat, and you know, it's just like the one that we did in Winter Park, like that was just so amazing. There's something about just getting away and just having like a weekend, a little bit more than a weekend of just impactful, memorable moments, events, containers, shares, activities that really it ignites your soul in a way that you know you just can't get anywhere else.
Well, I'm glad you framed it in the way of building something together, because that's I think the distinction between, in one way, this retreat and so many others that I've seen. This is not an escape. This is not something you go to and then go back to your life and a week later everything goes back to normal. I see this as an initiation, as an activation, as the beginning of something bigger. And so this retreat is it's got some themes through it. We're going to be arriving and releasing what's been holding us back, really starting to see ourselves for who we are. We're going to go and retreat and go into ourselves, then come back together as a community, and then be reborn and rebirthed as new people, as a new community. And we're not stopping there. This is going to be the beginning of a journey together. And so we're going to be creating a container to where this retreat moves forward into our lives, and we're there to support each other. Through this men's work that we've been talking about, we're going to be able to integrate this work together and grow as a community. And I think that's what I'm most excited for, this new beginning that this retreat gives us an opportunity for.
Amen. Yeah. It's really, as you were talking, like the thought came to my mind is like, we're kind of like building a new economy almost, you know, like in a way, because when you forge bonds with other men who you're getting vulnerable, you're releasing, you're allowing like the weird, crazy parts of yourself to come out in a healthy way, and really getting in touch with your emotions and healing wounds and being in ceremony and these kinds of things, you're forging bonds that are way more valuable than any kind of monetary gain that you could get, right? Like, and that shit is it's invaluable, right? Because I know that I can take a leap in this world, and you know, if I fall and hit some rocks, my brothers got me. My brothers have my back. You know, if I get fucking hit by a car and I don't have medical insurance and I need to start like a GoFundMe or whatever, my brothers got my back. If someone writes a blog post, like when Max just published a new blog post recently, I read it, reposted it, shared it, told people about it, like, that's what I'm talking about. Is this level of support that doesn't come from proximity. Oh, I work with these people. Oh, you see, Janine's having a birthday party. I'm not going to that shit. It's like, no, we want to be involved in each other's lives. We want to support each other. It comes from within. It doesn't come from, oh, I guess I'm a part of this group, so I have to do these things. No, it's come to permission and reawaken your wild soul with us, because this is going to be so epic. I can't tell you how excited I am. We are going to be totally unleashing a whole new way of being at this retreat. It is going to be, I know what it's going to be because of what we are and what we create and what we do already.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel the element I'm feeling into and what's most alive for me right now is really when you get a group of potentially strangers together, right? That enter into this container for the first time, sometimes with people they've never met. And then they leave with that sense of brotherhood after 4 days. You walk out, speaking from my own experience and other retreats that I've been to, I've walked out of those retreats with lifelong friends who I've been like, holy shit, like I only spent 3 days with this person, but that person learned more about me in this 3-day chunk than I've dared to share with other people in my life because of the container, because of where we were, and because of how welcomed my authentic self was. And I'm so excited for that permission to be given to other men to just step into who they really are and to ignite that part of themselves, to ignite that primal masculine fire and let it be seen with other men as we dance around the fire and let it out and just be together in a way that's more natural and not this robotic, behind the desk typing on the computer, popping your head over the cubicle to be like, hey Scott, how you doing today?
Right. Yeah.
But more of an interaction, more of an authentic feel of being immersed in nature and where we'll be in the world around us and with your brothers and working together through these different challenges, through these different beautiful emotional experiences that we'll have together. And it's going to be, I can't even do it justice with words, but I just, what I'm feeling is it's going to be magic.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, and a lot of this, our work and inspiration, like a lot of mine comes from Joseph Campbell, Robert Bly, Michael Mead. I've definitely taken some inspiration from people like Aubrey Marcus, past podcast guest Eric Godsey, other people that I see in the world doing this kind of work. Adrian Grenier, who I met recently at a Charles Eisenstein event from Entourage. Bill Plotkin, Matthew Fox.
Yep.
I mean, it's really, truly amazing. I wonder if we can give a little tease to the people out there about what kind of stuff we're going to have going on. What are you going to give people permission for?
Yeah, well, I'm going to turn it back on all of you listening. I invite you all to look deep within yourself and imagine if there was nothing holding you back, what would you give yourself permission to do? Who would you give yourself permission to be? That is the essence that we're looking to capture at this retreat. And we're going to do it through ceremony, through community, through immersion in nature, through movement, dance, breath, exploration, expression. Really exploring and expressing and letting out our wild selves. Learning what it means to truly live, learning who we are, and how we can truly be our best selves in community, supported by one another.
I think that's a perfect place to end the podcast.
That's
well
beautiful.
said. Well said, Bill Burns. Well, I'm sure we're going to do this again. This has been great, guys. I feel like always we just scratch the surface of what we're getting into because we can talk about this stuff all day. This is what we're most interested in. And, wherever your wound lies, that's where your genius is. That's what Robert Bly says. And we all have these wounds. Sometimes we don't know what they are. But, I was driving with my cousin recently when I was home, and he's like, he just said, unprompted by anything. I didn't say anything to him. He was like, yeah, I just haven't like screamed as loud as I could. And like I haven't done that in like a long, long time. I was like, well, man, you should come to Permission. It's going to be and we got 40 acres of land in Colorado.
Blow your lungs out.
You can blow your fucking lungs out, man. So what Bill said was perfect. I'm not going to add any more sprinkles on top of that perfect banana split. It was great. Guys, tell people where they could find you and where they can go to sign up for this for this retreat that we have, Permission.
Yeah, so authenticue.com/permission is the site, and that's where you can find out more about this wonderful retreat. You can message your podcast host here, Mike. He'll have tons of info for you. I'm Bill Burns. My brand, I guess, as it were, is Authentic You, and I'm also a coach, group facilitator, apparently an ego janitor now as well, and retreat host, and can't wait to hopefully see some of you with us in Western Colorado.
Beautiful. And I'm Max Marshausen. You can find me at maxmarsh.com. That's MARSCH. It's a German last name, so a little tricky there. But jump on there. You can find me for more information. And there's a link to permission on there as well. Or reach out to me on Coachhausen for more information about permission.
Yeah, and for you guys only, you've listened this far. If you're still listening, you're in fucking luck because you're going to get a little Mycadelic discount. So when you sign up for permission, you're going to get 10% off, and you just mention Mycadelic. Just mention Mycadelic. You heard it here. We're going to get you 10% off, and there's also early bird pricing. And if you have any questions, if you want to know anything else, we're not just going to take anyone and everyone. We're going to screen people. We're going to have calls. We're going to make sure that you're a right fit with the other people that we have. And that's how we're going to curate this to be the most maximal, optimal, I don't know, fucking thing on the world. I'm trying to be all profound as I close out the podcast here. But you know what? I took a chance. I took a risk, and I'm glad you guys held me. And that's what we're going to be doing. So go to these sites. All the links will be in the show description. Check it all out. Get the special early bird pricing. Put in the extra 10% Mycadelic code, and we hope to see you there. Thanks for listening. If you like the show, you know what to do. Like it, share, subscribe, rate it, tell people about it. If you know someone that might benefit from permission, maybe it's not yourself, but someone you know, someone that could benefit. Come with a buddy, come with a friend, come with a brother, whoever it is. Tell people about it, share it. Take the risk to say, hey, I heard this thing on a podcast. I think maybe you might be interested in this. Do you want to go with me? And we want to fucking see you guys there. So,
and if you're a woman who thinks your man or a man you know might benefit from this, send them our way. We'd love to learn more.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah. All right, everybody. Much love to you all. Thanks for listening. Till next time. Peace. Hey, hope you guys enjoyed that podcast. If you're interested in what we're talking about, get in touch with me. All the links are in the show notes. Just go to the show description, show notes, however it's labeled on your podcast player, and get in touch with me. Shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'm not on Facebook too much, but I will respond to Messenger. mycadelicpod@gmail.com. Also, the links are all in the show description and show notes, and then also in my link tree, you'll find access to Authentic You, where the permission retreat is hosted on Bill Burns' website, Authentic You. So do that, and then show your love and support for the show. Leave a 5-star rating and review. You know what to do when you love things. Just tell people about it, share it, and all that good stuff. And if you want to be a patron, get access to episodes like this that came out for early access, plus bonus materials, plus Dosadelic episodes, the more lighthearted, silly, goofy, absurd comedy show that I'm trying to put out and create. Well, that I am putting out and creating, but it's still a work in progress. Everything's a work in progress. You're a work in progress. We're all a work in progress. So let's be work in progresses together with each other. Hit me up, and love to hear from you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Much love. Till next time. Peace.